topic of discussion today is the Silver Line project. The Silver Line is a proposed higher speed rail line in Kerala that would connect Trivandrum, the capital city of Kerala, and Kasaragod of Kerala state. The detailed project report of the project is being prepared by KRail, Kerala Rail Development Corporation Limited, a joint venture company between the Ministry of Railways and Government of Kerala. This has been a topic of discussion in media and elsewhere. To emphasize on what its effects will be on various aspects of the society, we are here for a conversation with a learned and trained personality, Dr. SANTHOSH Kumar Pattanayak. Dr. S.K. Pattanayak is a strong visionary, multidisciplined management professional with over 3 decades of rich and varied experience across government departments and public sector enterprises of India. He belongs to the 1989 batch of Indian Railways Accounts Service. Apart from holding key positions in Indian Railways, Dr. Pattanayak has the distinctions of holding key management positions in the state and central public sector enterprises for nearly a decade, both on deputation and on absorption. After taking voluntary retirement from Indian Railways in 2013, Dr. Pattanayak joined Heavy Engineering Corporation as Director of Finance and then as Managing Director of Indian Railway Finance Corporation. Right now, Sir is pursuing his own ideas and passion for institution building and academics. We are glad to welcome you to Global TV discussion on the Silver Line project, sir. Glad to have you today.
Thank you very much, Alphonsa. Indeed, it's a pleasure for me to be here in the Global TV to discuss on a very sensitive issue, the Silver Line project, which is not only making a lot of controversy in the state of Kerala, but all over the country.
Our pleasure to have you with us, sir. Moving on to the first question of the day. Sir, the Silver Line project is aimed at development. What is your opinion on the economic feasibility of this project? Who are the people that can actually afford this?
Okay. Now, this project, as I told you, is very sensitive from the national as well as state perspective. The state government has taken an unilateral decision. The current government has taken a decision that it should move with the project. So the feasibility report, detailed feasibility report is almost ready. But the techno-economic feasibility report is yet to be approved by the government of India in order to give the final approval. The project is now caught between a lot of controversy because of so many aspects, and there are 4 important aspects, as I am telling you, is one is the economic feasibility. Does this project really has that economic feasibility the way it has been projected in the detailed project report? If you go by the cost-benefit analysis, a lot of things on the cost side, actually the cost to be incurred in the project has been underestimated, and a lot of benefits which will accrue to the society at large, the people at large, the state at the large, it has been overestimated. Even though project cost is now pegged at 63,940 crores, there is every possibility that it might end up with almost like rupees 1.30 or even more than that lakh crores. Main reason for being is that for such type of long gestation projects, railway projects, the time and cost overrun is inevitable. If you go by the national average, it is almost like, if I go by the lower side, it is 45% of the railway, the project estimate. Now, if you go by that reserve estimation, then it is going to 1.3 lakh crores. And there is every possibility that it may even go on the higher side. In this project, there is going to be almost like 530 kilometers of elevated subterranean rail, which is going to connect Trivandrum with Kasaragod, passing through 11 districts. Some 11 stations will be erected. Some stations will be on the ground. Some stations will be below the ground. Some stations like Thiruvananthapuram, they'll be above the ground. So there are a lot of challenges, first of all, to go for the project development and execution. Apart from those challenges, the basic challenge is the economic feasibility. I do not know what extent the state government has its own plan in place to manage the economic aspects of the project in a befitting way. But to my mind, it seems that because of the time and cost overrun, which is but natural. If you go by the metro man of India, E. Sridharan, who happens to be a man from state of Kerala, he is supposed to be the efficient railway management personnel who has erected two big stocks like Konkan Railway Corporation and then the Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. And recently, he is very much involved with the Kochi Metro construction. Now, if you go by the Sridharan standard, you can build at the best 14.3 kilometers of track in a year. And that too in a metro track, in an urban area, right? And suppose you go by that standard, you just imagine how many years it will take to complete a track length of 530 kilometers. So by the time, suppose you take that estimation, it may go even more than 3 decades. Normally, the land acquisition in railway projects is the most challenging one. And particularly in this Silver Line project, there is almost like 80% of the land of 1,300 odd acres, which is going to be a total requirement of 1,380 odd acres, hectares. Out of that, 80% of the land is the private land. And to acquire the private land, amidst a lot of protest which is going on in all the districts of Kerala, it is going to be a mammoth job for the state government. So I will keep my fingers crossed how exactly the state is planning to go ahead with the project. Even if everything has been put in place, for example, the funds are managed from different sources and the lands are also acquired, everything in place. The main challenges, the basic challenges is to really assess the economic feasibility. This is one aspect. The other aspects we can discuss why the project is going into a lot of controversy.
Thank you, sir. We heard that there is a lot of underestimation in the project as of now. Moving on to the second question. In the state of Kerala, how financially viable is this, sir? Is it allowing growth while maintaining service levels?
Kerala, is one of the very important states in our country. One of the reasons is that the national literacy level in Kerala is almost like 94% compared to 54% in the average Indian literacy. So people are very much aware what is happening around. Now, to take up such a development project without the involvement of the people, without taking all the stakeholders into consultation, I think is a big blunder which has been done by the state government of Kerala. And that's one of the reasons why there are widespread protests all over the state. Only after, even after the in-principle approval has been given by the government of India, there are so many questions being asked, not only by the people of the state, but also the people of the India, including the environmentalists. And also the government agencies like Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog has questioned the project estimate of 63,940 crores is unlikely to happen. It's going to escalate further and it may go more than 1.3 lakh crores. So, and beyond that also, if you look at the different experts, like the railway experts, the geoscience experts, and the other experts, they are also asking so many questions about the viability of the projects. Now, let me try to touch upon the financial viability of the projects. If we require so much of fund to be arranged by the state government, of course, it's a joint venture between the government of India and the state government of Kerala. The equity part will come from these two governments. Central government will have no problem in providing the equity from the central budget, because there is already a national pipeline for the infrastructure projects, which is funding different state projects, infrastructure projects. So from that angle, the central government equity share will not be a problem. And in fact, they have already provided 2,100 crores for the start of the project to the Kerala Infrastructure and Development Corporation. Right now, then next comes to the state government equity, which maybe, to start with, it may be around say 2,000 to 3,000 crores, just to meet the be at par with the central government funding. So whether the state government of Kerala is in a position to arrange that much of equity. As you know, for last 37 years, the state budget of Kerala is always in deficit. Even after you take, Kerala is known to be the state with highest remittance from the people who are working abroad, right? Even after taking the remittance into consideration, the budget of Kerala, state budget of Kerala is always in the stage of deficit. Now, with such a deficit budget, I really wonder where from the government of Kerala will arrange this much of equity for the project. And if you take the size of the project also, it is almost half the size of the state budget. So it's a big ticket project where it will be consuming half the size of the budget. So the next question, what I think is, which is very pertinent, to arrange the fund from various multilateral agencies like say JICA and ATB, which has been already under discussion stage, to arrange funds from these two multilateral agencies, and maybe even other multilateral agencies will be contacted to get this the loan, the borrowed fund. That even will turn out to be very very tricky task for the state government of Kerala. Now the next question is, even if you get the fund, right, will you be in a position to repay it along with the interest in the time to come? The project, if you go by the detailed project report, you see they have projected a rate of return for the project around 24%. That is when I told you that they have underestimated the cost, overestimated the benefit, right? That is how they have come to a conclusion of, say, ROR at the rate of 24%. If 24% rate of return will be there, then of course the project will be in a very comfortable position to repay the loans. But I don't think the same thing is going to happen. There will be a lot of miss in between the cuffs and lips, and particularly for such big ticket infrastructure projects and that to railway projects with a long gestation period. I don't think they will be able to garner so much of profit out of this project once the project is made into run. So these are the basic questions to really assess the financial viability of the project. In my own opinion, the second challenge for the government of Kerala will be to manage the financial viability of the project, right? So one is the economic feasibility, and second is the financial viability. Even though the detailed project report speaks positive things about this too, unless until there is a third-party validation to the DPR, one cannot really say whether both the things are going to happen as it has been projected.
Thank you, sir. Indeed, this is one of the biggest projects that Kerala has ever undertaken, and the estimations that they have made, how correctly it is done, definitely a big question today. The Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the Global Goals, were adopted to ensure the protection of the planet. Does the Silver Line project aid at maintaining this idea of environmental sustainability?
Well, I think this is $1 million question. And that's the key question around which all the protests from the people, from different NGOs, from different environmental groups, they are keeping momentum up. Now, if you go to the state of Kerala, it is the first question in everyone's whether this project is going to be pushed through by the present government, right? It's not going to be such an easy task for the government to push ahead the project. See, the final approval is required from the central government, and central government is also keeping their fingers crossed. State government wants to, and their supporter wants to move ahead with the project. But the main protest which is coming is from people at large. People are the main stakeholder for the project. Now the question comes whether the state government of Kerala, even though the project was it was thought of about 12 years back, and right now the present government, after coming into the power, the LDF government, they want to push through the project. Will it be a nice idea to push through the project when people have so many concerns, particularly about the environmental sustainability and the social impact which is going to make at last? And there is another angle to beyond this too. Also, this is a technical feasibility. That's where the most of the experts are saying, well, let the government go for a techno-economic feasibility report. Now, technical feasibility of going for a 530 kilometers of line along the western coast of India, from south to north of Kerala, connecting south to north of Kerala, even though the feasibility, economic feasibility has been projected on high terms, but whether the technical feasibility is there. Now the same Sridharan, the metro man, Sridharan, he is supposed to be a master in the railway design and projects. He has questioned it. His opinion is that it is totally an ill-conceived and defectively planned project, which is true in some sense, because there are already existing railway tracks in the state, right, from the British time. Now they say that the track is not in such a condition where the train can run beyond 40 to 45 kilometers per hour speed. Now, if your existing tracks are already there, will it not be a good idea to strengthen the track than spending so much of money for a new project, mostly with the borrowed money, right, which will cost you high in the years to come? For Kerala being a coastal state and there is a lot of wetlands, the soil condition is not suitable to go for projects where the trains can run at high speed. If they are going to go for such elevated corridor projects, so there needs to be embankments for the high raising tracks. Now, this high raising tracks with embankments is going to cause a lot of drainage problem, natural drainage problem once it is erected. So this is one of the main environmental concerns. Now the government says they have gone ahead with this particular environmental assessment, which has been done by a state agency called Center for Environment and Development, CET. They have gone for a rapid environmental impact assessment, right? Rapid environmental impact assessment takes one season in a year data into consideration while assessing the project's influence on the environment. Okay, the effect of the project on the environment. This rapid test cannot be a foolproof measure to really assess the environment impact assessment in the true sense. Now, a lot of environmentalists say you cannot go ahead with the project with a rapid environmental impact assessment. You should go for a comprehensive environmental impact assessment. And that has to be done by an agency who is authorized to do so, not by CED. Now, currently, the state government of Kerala has also approved this comprehensive CIA assessment. Now, once that report comes, you'll be in a position to know how much is this going to impact the environment in a true sense. Even the COD report says, with the project coming, 530 meters length of project coming, it is going to impact the fertility of the soil, number one. Number two, it will reduce the agricultural produce, because a lot of paddy land, well, the lands which is now grown with the paddy, it will be taken over by the project, right? So first of all, there will be reduction in the land space, and second, it is going to affect the quality, because there will be a severe influence on your natural drainage process, which ultimately will affect your cultivation and production, right? And third thing is going to change the local topography, but the line is going to pass through some of the not only the wetlands, it will pass through some of the hill tracts of Western Ghats. And as you know, Western Ghat is one of the region one important region. This is important from global biodiversity point of view, and that's a lot of environmentalists. We are keeping track of the damage which is being done to the nature in the Western Ghat area. So even if this project comes in a short run, it may not affect the environment in a big way, but if you see the long-term impact of the project, it is definitely going to do so. So I think that is one of the main reasons where there is possibility of extensive damage to the ecosystem, encompassing the paddy fields, the wetlands, and the hills, and which ultimately indirectly will affect the natural drainage system in those areas. So these are the two important factors, and the environmentalists are questioning, and they are fighting tooth and nail with the government of Tripura to come up with a very transparent, comprehensive environmental impact assessment project before thinking to go ahead with the project, right? So, and now let's come to the fourth factor, which is a part of environmental impact, but it is considered separate, because how it is going to affect the local population through which the train line will pass. There will be a lot of social impact, in the sense that once we are going to acquire the land, almost like 1,100 to 1,200 hectares from the private private persons, then a lot of the local population who have the small holdings with them, who do the cultivation to earn their livelihood, they will be on the street. Even though the government goes for a good R&R package, rehabilitation and resettlement package, that may not be adequate for them to compensate the losses which they will be incurring by parting the lands to the government for the project. Now, the people are very much sensitive to the fact that they are staying in those places for generations together, for last so many hundreds of years. Now suddenly they will be asked to vacate those lands and go to other places, even after getting a good compensation. It will affect their emotion, and it will affect their long-term living process. So that's one of the reasons why the local population are very much antagonized by this government's, the state government's to go ahead with the project. So overall, if you see, one more thing I must tell you, that even though the alignment of the project doesn't pass through any national park or wildlife sanctuaries or the biosphere reserves or any ecologically sensitive places, still then it is going to affect the wetlands, the hills, and other things. So overall, the ecosystem is going to be affected, and that's going to create a ecosystem imbalance. We are all aware of the fact that Kerala has gone through two massive floods in succession, not many, just before the COVID years, 2018, 19, two massive floods have happened in the Kerala, and it has devastated the state. It has affected the backbone, economic backbone of the state. Everyone knows that it's because of the climate change, global climate change, which is happening, and India is also getting affected. Now, just imagine a state which we claim is a God's own country. If it is devastated due to the flash flood, and still we are not sensitive about undertaking infrastructure projects which might create an imbalance in the ecosystem, then it is going to be very, very precarious, not only for the state, but for country as a whole. So even though I am very much for the railway projects, and that too, this particular project, if you take the positive aspects of the project, it is going to improve the economy in a big way, and it's going to connect from north to south of the Kerala, which can be traveled with 4 hours, which normally, if you go by the existing railway systems with 40 to 45 kilometers speed per hour, it may take 10 to 12 hours. You can it definitely will give a lot of economic boost to the state. Kerala will be on the path of progress. But the next question is, at what cost? At what environmental cost? At what economic cost? Right? So all these questions need to be properly addressed before the government of Kerala, for that matter, the JV, the Kerala, the KRail project, takes a nosedive into the execution form, right? So that is my whole assessment about the project. And we need to, as a concerned citizens of the country, we need to also share our viewpoints in such a way that even if the project doesn't take it in its present form, it should take in a form so that all those points which are going to be sensitive from the local livelihoods, right, and environmental degradation, those should be properly factored. And of course, the other factors like the financial viability is a big question. So, in my opinion, there should be all stakeholder participation to form a view whether such project, the big ticket project, which will be is one of its kind, should take off or not.
Very rightly stated, sir. The risks involved when it comes to the environmental impacts or the social impacts are many. The degradation of the environment, the drainage difficulties that this project will cause are plenty in number, that it should be properly addressed and assessed by the authorized. Very wonderfully told and explained. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. We are extremely happy to have such an eminent person like you, who's experienced in the field, to speak about the project, which is taking so many people into action, sensitizing the people in Kerala, because they are being questioned with their own private lands. Now, as we conclude, I would once again like to thank you for your time and placing your opinion strongly and telling us what the impacts of this project will be in the environmental aspect, social aspect, the economic feasibility, and also the viability of the project. Thank you so much, sir. We are extremely happy to have you with us in the platform of Global TV.
Thank you very much, Alphonsa, for giving me this opportunity to be with you and share my own viewpoints on a very sensitive project like Silver Line. Now, the last question, is it really going to be the Silver Line for the state of Kerala in the near future? That's the question to be addressed by the people only. The people only. Thank you.
Is it really going to be a silver line? It's definitely something which is thought-striking that we all have to think seriously. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much once again.